Shut this door. You want to close it?
Gender discrimination, there are many important issues, and our workshop is not to undermine any of this, but to focus on one. And in the needs assessment, two things was brought up are how to communicate confidently and what is the current situation for professional women. So we like to choose this topic and include things you mentioned and think is more relevant for our foreseeable future. And so our workshop is twofold. First, to provide you an opportunity to reflect on the issue of unequal pay, and then give you some advice on how to communicate confidently. And similarly, this two topic is not connected, but we want you to keep in mind communicating confidently can provide as a valuable tool to promote more equal pay for professional women. And we also noticed this is a sensitive topic, and it is important for us to state. Our workshop aims to get you know about the current situation about women's wages and think about the causes of inequality and give you advice to be more confident and empowered as a professional woman. I hope my explanation will give you better assurance in our workshop. And then let's go through our agenda and objectives. We also paste it on the wall. And first is our gallery exercise. In this activity, we will show you some statistics of women's wages. And second is the root cause tree. We will like you to reflect on the causes of this inequality, and we will use the video and mini lecture to give you some advice on how to communicate confidently. And the fifth is the scenario practice. You will use the skill you learned in this activity to do your salary negotiation. And last is the wrap-up. And in this workshop, we like you to accomplish the following things: to recognize the current situation of women's wages, to identify causes of gender pay gap, to outline ideas regarding communicating with confidence in the context of salary negotiation, and last, to apply communication skills to a salary negotiation scenario. Okay, then first is our gallery exercise.
As you can see on the agenda, in a few minutes we're going to do an activity called the gallery exercise, in which we'll ask you to stand up, walk around the classroom, and look at the statistics pasted on the wall in the back of the classroom. But before doing that, we would like you to get prepared for what you are going to read about the statistics. And we would like you to do the reflection for the following questions. The first one is, how would you define fair pay? And the second one is, how would an unfair pay affect somebody's life? Third one is, how would an unfair pay affect your life? And as you can see, we provided you scratch papers on each of your tables, so if it helps, please feel free to jot down any of your notes during the silent reflection, and you will have 2 minutes for the individual reflection. So are we good? Okay, start now. So now you will have the chance to walk around the gallery, and before that, I want to remind you to keep in mind of what you have written down while you're reading the statistics. And we also want to let you know that the statistics we use on the wall are based on the findings of the U.S. Department of Labor. So please keep an open mind while you're reading the statistics about the situation of unequal pay existing in other cultural contexts outside the U.S. We realize that the statistics you're going to read might be upsetting for somebody to some extent, and we want to emphasize that there are always people who are the exceptions and can beat the odds and the statistics. And also, as you can see, there are red and black markers on each of your tables. So please use a red marker to place a check to the left of the fact that you find most surprising, while using a black marker to place a check to the right of the fact that you find most upsetting. And you will have 5 minutes for the gallery exercise. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, we can start now. everybody have done their gallery exercise, now we're going to come back as a class and do a class reflection together. So first of all, does anybody want to share with us why did you choose the statistic that you find most surprising or upsetting? Sarah?
It's surprising. I'm very surprised that only 74% of the education, library, training workforce is women, because it seems much higher to me.
And do you find anything surprising about the salaries they make?
No, I'm not that surprised because I've heard the statistics, especially right now during the U.S. presidential campaign. I mean, it's upsetting, obviously.
Okay, let's go Tia and then Sandra.
I found the statistic where they were listing how much a woman loses in comparison to men surprising, just because like it feels shocking to actually see the total number amount and like divided by degree. That was just
Yeah, I totally agree because like when we see like one year maybe it's not a large number, but like when they add it up to during a lifetime, which is 47 years, that's really a great amount of money. Sandra?
Yeah, I was actually surprised by the salary for the education sector because I knew women get less money in, I don't know, management or business fields. I didn't realize it was that bad in the education.
Yeah, well, because on the other statistics, they say like women on average, they earn like 78 cents for every dollar earned by men, like regardless of in which field or in which industry they are in. And while we were doing the research, we find it really surprising as well. Okay, thank you for your ideas. And our second reflection question is, how do these US-based facts compare to what you know about inequalities in the workplace in other countries or cultural contexts? Does anybody want to share anything about unequal pay or the situation of women in the workplace in their own country? Or what they know in other countries?
not my own country, but from what I learned when I was in Spain, they can actually ask what your marital status is. Like that's normal to put on an application. So based on that, they can decide whether they want you or not, and that can be problematic.
Yeah, and that's usually like particular for women. They have problem with whether you're married or not. Anybody from Asia? Okay, Jenny.
I can only speak to the industry I used to work in, but our monthly income is very structured, very transparently. We have like a base salary, and the rest of it is based on how many. So I was a teacher, and based on how many hours of teaching I do per month. So regardless of gender, men or women, like female or male teachers, they have the same salary structures. So nothing really differs there. So it wasn't really. So we see any gender inequality in terms of income.
Okay, thank you. So according to your experience, there's actually like a very balanced pay between males and female in China.
Yes, the industry I work in.
Yeah, because like as we mentioned, there are always exceptions. There's like equal pay for women and men in some countries, some industries, and there are also situations where female end up making more money than their male counterpart does. And as we were doing our research for this workshop, we did come up with some statistics regarding to the gender pay gap outside the U.S. context, and we would like to share them with you.
Yeah. So the latest figures show an average of 16.2% gender pay gap in 2010 across the European Union. new data from Euromonitor, women in the Asia Pacific region will earn 41.2% less than men by 2030, which is higher than the global estimates of 35.7% in the same period. However, women in China seems to have it worse, as they earn 40.7% less than their male counterparts in 2013, which is more than double the 19.6% figure in 2000.
And our last question is, why might equal pay be important to you? And we recommend you to refer back to your answers regarding the question, how would an unequal pay affect your life in the salary reflection you just did? And of course, you can just share the part of the answer that you feel comfortable sharing with your peers.
It's important to me because I think, especially we're all in the graduate school context, if a situation comes up in the future where even though I may have an increasingly larger amount of experience than my male counterpart, if he's still getting paid more, that would be extremely upsetting, especially because of going to graduate school and getting that extra degree.
I think that's a very good point because we are all getting our education in graduate school, so we are really expecting to get something out of this, regardless of whether it's experience, it's knowledge, or it's our salary in the future. Any other thoughts? Let's go Sharon and then Jen.
Same equal pay for me will make me feel that my effort is valued, and if I didn't get the same salary with men, I probably would decrease my productivity or like some mental unsatisfaction.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I think that's a very good point.
Along the line of what Sean just said, the affect and motivation, I think, would be hugely affected when I know I'm doing the same job as my male counterpart, but he's receiving more money for this equal quality of work. So I'd be really upset, and then that would probably decrease my productivity and my motivation to stay in the company.
Yeah, I agree with that as well, because I think if we are doing the same kind of job and we are earning less money than our male counterpart, we would start to suspect what do we lack and why are we earning less than them. Julia?
I also feel like the fact that there's still a gender pay gap really shows how these ideas of what a family and what a male and female role should be in society is so embedded still, without being questioned. And I think that the gender pay gap really makes it hard for women who don't necessarily fit into this cookie cutter image of where your role is supposed to be in a family, especially for women who decide that they want to be a single mother and not necessarily get married. And it puts so much of your life into well, you should be getting married, you should be depending on a man to leave the money. So it's still embedded in our society, even though people don't necessarily say those kind of things anymore.
Yeah, thank you for bringing up the stereotype of what's the division of labor in the human society and why is this and the phenomenon of it's still affecting us right now in our society. Okay, so after we've learned overall situation of the gender pay gap and have some general knowledge about the statistics regarding that, then we would like you to think about the causes of the problems. But before I turn the ground to Monica, I want to ask, does anybody still have any last thoughts or comments about what we have just discussed in the gallery exercise and our statistics? Okay, good, thank you.
Hello, everyone. So I think we can equally agree that receiving equal pay is very important to all of us here. So as much as there are statistics and data on it, there are also a lot of viewpoints on the causes of the gender pay gap. So right now we're going to transition into talking about the causes of it. And because some viewpoints can be controversial or even hurtful, I want to continue asking you guys to keep an open mind and gather out the empathy to really listen to different opinions, and don't be afraid to raise your own. So we're going to start off with an activity called the root cause tree. And the root cause tree is a visual method to identify root causes of a specific phenomenon and to identify the different effects of that phenomenon. And typically a root cause tree will have multiple branches to show different levels of effects. But for this workshop, we're only going to focus specifically on the roots of gender pay gap. So for this activity, I want you guys to start out as a group and talk with your table. Why do women tend to earn less than men? So just generate some ideas of causes of gender pay gap. You can talk about what you know or what you think. And once you have your answers, individually write your own answer on a sticky note and then paste it on the root cause tree. Does anyone have any questions?
Or like at least where we're at, and like Gen X. So it's just like the names of the generations. And then the one before us is Generation X, and then before that is Baby Boomers. So right now, like
There was something I saw on Facebook saying, well, that's great that is talking about the pay gap
and there's still equity in
and
education.
78
So like my grandmother was
but
our age.
the real problem is black student holidays make 62 cents to the dollar and Latino 45. So what statistics you're choosing to use to shape yeah. So he was saying he suggested that your statistics don't take into account the number of hours that people not in an hourly job and a salary but I don't know if that's true. Well, I think
So it's like we're men are like doing this, women are like
Like, not in the same group.
yeah, they're choosing they make jobs in the education, which they know.
Yeah, which I said, maybe that's because they're not valued. Don't expect as much because it's more like people are trying to understand
it's like
yeah, that's just my thing.
if someone's
That's point. And then the other thing that I thought
phrase it
maybe was like how it's more about 20 years. And like I remember
they aren't really like you know like
I think also
like everyone.
What types of
I just want to give a 1 minute time warning.
Yeah.
less likely. Yeah, less likely.
And if anyone's ready with their answer, please feel free to place it on the tree.
Like on the actual tree or?
On my beautiful tree.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, of course. It's okay.
Thank you guys so much. If you don't mind, I would like to share a couple of your thoughts with the entire class. So, some of the causes that you guys came up with. Social stereotype. Men are seen as more competent and powerful. Women tend to be more passive and less assertive, less likely to raise their concern. Generational education gaps contributing to hiring based on experience. Family responsibility, whether intentional or not. I think all of those are such valid reasons as to why this gender pay gap exists. And before I move on, would anyone like to share what they wrote down and give some more thought?
We were also talking about how it's considered bad to actually talk about how much money you make. And so the fact that we're not talking about it just kind of also helps perpetuate it.
Exactly. So thank you again so much for your thoughts. So I am going to show you some data that were provided by the Pew Research Center. Does anyone know the Pew? So the Pew is a nonpartisan think tank. They provide public polling, demographic analysis, and just a lot of data-driven social science research. So according to the Pew Research Center, young women are less likely to have the same desire for executive level positions. In fact, 34% of them say that they're not interested in becoming a top manager or a top boss, versus 24% men. Women are more likely to have family-related career interruptions. Someone wrote down family interruptions, whether intentional or not. So, in fact, 38% of working mothers say they have taken a significant amount of time off their work versus 24% of working fathers. However, I think it's important for me to say this based on the findings, that those working mothers did say they did not regret their decision at all to stay home and take care of their family. Men tend to have larger professional networks. And lastly, women do not negotiate their salary as aggressively as men. And I think this point is one of the driving force behind this workshop. We want to take the fear out of it, and we want to work closer to closing the gender pay gap. I also want to mention that this result is based on a survey that was given to 2,000 adults, including 810 millennials. So, why is salary negotiation important? According to Lisa Babcock, negotiating even a small boost in pay at the start of your career will have a snowball effect. It will mean a bigger annual raise, possibly bigger bonuses, and it will carry over when you change companies. And they ask, as they always do, what was your last salary? And Lisa Babcock is a professor of economics. She works at Carnegie Mellon University. She's also the founder of a program for research and outreach on gender equity in society. She does a lot of research on salary negotiation and conflict resolution, and her research shows that men will 4% more likely negotiate their salary. So that leaves the people who are leaving all that money behind are women. So before we move on to our next activity, do you guys have any thoughts or concerns? So I'm going to leave it to Ka to open up the second part of our workshop, which is the introduction to salary negotiation.
Yeah, it's our second part to communicating with confidence. As Monica discussed that women seldom speaking up for ourselves is also one cause of the unequal pay, and then we will provide some strategies on how to communicate confidently and some negotiation skills. First, we will show you a video. It is provided by LinkedIn, and it's a speech delivered by Jennifer Irene. Do you know the LinkedIn? It's a non-profit organization and online communication and helping women to achieve their ambitions. And in their website, there are many valuable resources, including the tips and videos. So if you have any question about how to be a successful woman, you can go to the website. And when you are watching the video, we would like you to jot down some notes that can be related to salary negotiation.
People think of confidence as a feeling, but in reality, it's a set of behaviors that you can change and improve over time. In contrast, self-esteem is your overall sense of self-worth. It's usually developed during childhood, and it takes years to change. Self-esteem is built from the inside out. But luckily, research shows that confidence can be built from the outside in. And that's really important to know, particularly for students and for recent graduates who are just starting out in their careers. On campus, you're typically surrounded by your peers who have similar levels of experience. The workplace, however, is a very different environment, and that transition from campus to career can be intimidating. Suddenly, you're part of a team with a hierarchy of both experience and responsibility, and you'll likely be the most junior member. In meetings, you can't wait to be called on. You're going to be expected to contribute, to share your perspective on topics you may not know much about, and there's not going to be a lot of time to prepare. The most important first step is to figure out what you want to say. We call that having a point of view. Now, a point of view is more than just an opinion. It's an informed perspective that takes what you know and relates it to the agenda at hand. A point of view doesn't have to be a brilliant analysis that took you years to develop. In fact, it doesn't even have to be a statement. Asking a thoughtful question can move a conversation forward. And you should use your status as someone new to an organization to your advantage. After all, you have a fresh perspective to contribute. Let's talk about presence. Peggy Klaus is an author and an executive coach, and she said presence was the best part of your personality combined with the best part of your expertise. And I love that definition because too often we hold cliched notions of who embodies presence. And inevitably, those images are of tall men in dark suits. And if, like me, you don't have height on your side, how do we demonstrate presence? Well, the most important thing is to pay attention to both the verbal and the non-verbal signals that you're sending. And again, this is not about how you feel. It's about how you act. Poise, good posture, looking people directly in the eye, enhance presence. The biggest verbal mistakes that women make are talking too quietly or too quickly or discounting what we say. We usually think communication is about what we say, but ultimately it's about what other people hear. Instead of waiting to feel confident, it's helpful to experiment with behaviors that help you act confident. Talking openly with women you trust is a great way to share strategies for building confidence.
Okay. After watching this video, I have two questions for you. The first is, how do you think confidence play a role when you are negotiating a salary? As the video is all talking about the confidence, how to be confident, do you think it can also be related to the salary negotiation? Lisa? Jenny?
I think for being confident, you're sending the message that you're worth the raise instead of you're just like being greedy for asking for more.
Yeah, so we can increase the chance to get higher salary.
That was pretty much what I was gonna say, but I think especially if you're in a business situation, like they are expecting you to be able to like deliver messages effectively and persuasively, so you're like demonstrating a skill.
Yes, right. So, confidence must be a very important fact in salary negotiation. And our second question is, if you are going to give one advice on confidence for the leadership, like, do you have any past experience of having any workshop about the confidence, or how do you do before having your job interview to become more confident and attractive?
Since we're focusing on interviewing, I think preparing yourself for the interview, even if that means like hours of extensive research on like previous salaries in this company or something like that, I think not having to really like think about it at the time, just having an answer is something that would go over well.
Yeah, right. Just do some research after in advance, right? And
I feel like raising my hand every 5 seconds. I don't know if you guys know the psychologist work, whose name is Amy Cotty. She gave a very famous TED Talk on power posing. So her theory is if you expand your body, your mind will tend to be more confident and more powerful too. So she recommends before you go into an interview, you can do like a powerful pose inside of the bathroom that'll make your, like that'll keep your cortisol, which is the stress hormone, down, and it will activate your performance hormones.
yeah,
So
right.
that usually helps.
Yeah, I think the Bobby Block in her workshop also mentioned this, to stand and sit in the neutral pose. Yes. So based on the video, we will give you a small mini lecture, and this is the outline we draw down from the video. The first is point of view, what to say, and second is presence, how to say it, and third, practice. And in the point of view, here are two important quotes from the video. It means you need to figure out what result. So I desperately need the money. So, are you say this? I think I will not, right? So what kind of reasons will you use to back up your argument?
I guess I would like talk about my work experience and my education.
Yeah, like your strength, right? Anything? And I think, as Paige also mentioned, to do some research before doing the salary negotiation, it's also a very important strategy. So, before doing the salary negotiation, do some research on your position and get the idea of the average salary of this position. And by stating this kind of facts, it will make you sound more valid and objectives. Let's see the example here. Like you can either say someone in my position typically make between $35,000 and $40,000, or you can say I think I'm worse. Which one do you think is more objective and persuasive? It's the first one, right? And here are some resources you can use when doing your research. The Department of Labor Statistics. It is provided by the U.S. federal government. And the Glassdoor, salary.com, LinkedIn job listing. And you can also use your network. You can ask the friends in the similar industry about the salary range for your position. And second thing is, like Sandra mentioned, to emphasize your strength. When doing the salary negotiation, demonstrate your value and contributions you did. Like the projects you carry out, the clients you landed, events you coordinated. And depending on the different fields, the answer can vary. So you can use the following 4 questions to develop your ideas. Like, what project have I played or co-lead? Have I said and made company money? And how I contribute to company success? What are my unique strengths and skills? And by stating your, it is likely that you're just one of many employees in your company, so the employer might not know you very much. And by stating your contributions, it can make your employer impressed and increase the chance to get a high salary. So Jalo will continue the third one.
Well, as Sarah just mentioned, communicating more confidently will help you to make your point make a more clear point. And we also suggest you to make sure you're in control of the conversation while you're doing the salary negotiation in order to get an ideal outcome. And here are some tips to lead the conversation during your salary negotiation. One important rule of negotiation is that do not be the first one to name a number. Sometimes the other party will pressure you to come clear with a specific number that you make at your current job, and they will want to adjust their offer to you accordingly to the number you say. And we have some phrases for you to resolve this situation.
What's your expected salary for this one?
That's a good question. Can you tell me what's in your budget?
Okay, how much are you making in your current job?
Oh, unfortunately, my employer doesn't allow me to disclose that information, but I would really love to hear what you have in mind.
Okay.
Thank you, Monica and Ko. And the second key point in leading the conversation is when you are being made an offer, don't rush to fill the silence. Let the other party to fill the dead air.
What if we give you a 60% bump in pay?
I see.
In addition, 2 vacation days.
We can work with that.
And the third key notion in this conversation is when you present your salary provided in a range instead of a specific number, and mention that you like to be in the upper part of the mentioned range. Because if you name a specific number, you could actually be anchoring your salary lower than what you could actually make. And also, when you provide a range, always remember to back it up with facts and evidence from reliable sources.
I think we can provide about $50,000 to $60,000.
That's great. I would like to be considered in the upper range. Is this something we can continue to discuss?
Yeah, how about 55,000?
Based on my research, my education and experience, I was really looking in the upper range of that salary.
That's true. So, we can work about 58.
That sounds great.
Thank you, Monica and Ke. And now we come to the presence part, which is after knowing what to say, you have to find a better way to present yourself and present your point of view. As the video has mentioned, pay attention to the verbal and nonverbal signals that you're sending. And it's not about how you feel, it's about how you act. And we have come up with 3 very vital aspects of you should pay attention to when you present yourself. That is the facial expressions, the confident posture, and a direct neutral tone. And we would like to clarify that this is not the only 3 aspects that can help you to construct your presence, but we choose to share these 3 aspects in this workshop because we find it relatively more important. And I will introduce the facial expression. Monica will share more with you about the confident posture and the direct neutral tone. The facial expression is a vital nonverbal component of your communication. And before sharing about what you should pay attention to about your facial expressions in a salary negotiation, I would like to ask, when you are talking with other people, what facial expressions do they use that make you feel they are confident? Does anybody want to share about their own experience? Right.
I think for me, if the person had a conversation with me, if the person had eye contact with me, I think he or she is confident. And also, I feel the person would be confident if she or he has the smiles on his or her face, and that will also make me feel he or she is confident. And
Yeah, I think making eye contact and smiling while doing your salary negotiation are 2 very good ideas that we can use. Any other thoughts? Okay. So while we are doing our salary negotiations, we want to manage our facial expressions because having non-facial expression or unmoving face will make your presence seems like very impersonal and robotic, while having too many and too exaggerated facial expressions will make you seem to be too animated. And we really do want to find a balance between having too many facial expressions and not having facial expressions at all. And as Ray has mentioned, eye contact is also a very important point to manage our facial expression. So we suggest you to make contact with your supervisor or interviewer a few seconds at a time, because we think that's important for you to present your most confident self without making you seem to be intimidating or desperate. We also suggest you to smile as often as the conversation allows, and raise your eyebrow to illustrate your interest or your seriousness about the conversation. And while we think it's also a good idea to read your supervisor's facial expression in order to get a read of his thoughts during the course of the conversation.
Right. So you know exactly how to present your point of view, and you've done your research, you know your strength, and you're ready to lead the conversation. So the next is about how you present your body, because your body has to be incongruent with your intention. Salary negotiation can occur in person or over the phone, but no matter where it takes place, having a good posture will help you to deliver your message confidently. By show of hand, who attended Bobby Block's presentation? Do any of you brave and confident ladies would like to demonstrate us what she taught us about how to stand in a neutral and confident position? All right. Oh, Julie.
So she said to stand neither like too far apart or too close in, just with your hands at your side, like how a little kid would stand. That's literally what she said. And then your legs shoulder width apart, and like I guess like a string is lifting you up, so you're standing straight.
So now we're going to have Jaiwin to translate that in sitting in a neutral and confident pose while sitting down. So when you're sitting down in front of the hiring manager, you want to make sure you sit closer to the front of your chair, and you sit close enough so that your feet are planted flat on the ground. You want to keep your back straight, and you want to lean in forward slightly. So when you're leaning in slightly, you're closing that physical gap between you and the hiring manager. That shows that you're engaged and that you're actively listening to the other person. You want to keep your hands folded on your lap or at your sides, and avoid touching or playing with your hair, but you can use hand gestures to emphasize a point. So to recap, we talked about the nonverbal signals that you're sending when you're negotiating your salary. We talked about facial expression, we talked about posture. The next one is about your verbal signals, and it's about your tone. And Bobby Block, again, mentioned the importance of maintaining congruency of your tone and your intention. So the tone of our voice should match our intention. So can I have another brave volunteer to demonstrate reading aloud these two sentences in two different ways?
The bottom of my shoes are wearing off. The bottom of my shoes are wearing off.
So does anyone know what Mandy did for the second sentence? Had a glimpse of it. It's up top. And I know that I am definitely guilty of doing this in my everyday conversation. But in a salary negotiation, you definitely want to avoid up top. And up top is that upward inflection that we use when we ask a question. But when we use it when we say a sentence, it usually signals doubt or hesitancy. example, someone in my position typically makes between 45,000 and 50,000 versus someone in my position typically makes between 45,000 and 50,000.
Then it's our last part, practice. So when practice, you can experiment with all kinds of behaviors and find out the one you are most comfortable with and is the most suitable for you. And you can also practice with women you trust, so you can share the feedback and also the strategy. And it's time for us to practice. So we will give you one scenario for everybody, and you will do your own salary negotiation based on this scenario. And the scenario is you are offered the position of education consultant by international learning company with a starting salary of 50,000 a year. And you can use the following 3 questions to develop your speech when you are doing the salary negotiation. And we'd like you to do it at your table, and everyone can take turn to do the salary negotiation and practice your skills. And then when one people is talking, others please listen carefully and then give and share feedbacks. And we will give you the handouts about the information we are just in the lecture, so you can use it as the checklist when you're listening. And one thing to remind you is to do some research for your salary, the position, education consultant position. We can start.
The name of the company is not a real company, but like you want to create a company and like research for what salary was is regular or every salary for education society. Do what they ask you.
Yes, it just be negotiate the benefits. Negotiate the time. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we said funny paper.
we just make it up? Medical coverage.
Actually, it's like and you have to like say like make a point and ask about the raisins.
They probably are required to say if I can.
Either some of you are not in the negotiation can act as the hiring manager, or you first can do it at the same time. So after the one person is doing separate negotiation, you guys can give feedback to her together. Does that make any sense?
Oh, okay, what other benefits are on?
You already have your baby.
Yeah, I think that is definitely
Okay,
something.
well, that sounds pretty well. I do think that based on my experience, based on my past experience, compensation package covers employment plans. I can go with my expectations with definitely getting it's from $60,000 to $70,000 I think you are after you never say the first number. So I don't want to know but okay, so then I can but I want to know like what where is that?
And then you read it over and you yeah, we did. She asked a question, so we were.
So I'll usually get a range of usually higher than what I would now expect.
Yeah, so I just basically like do what I can do that now.
Well, I've never negotiated with salary, definitely not revised, so this is a big low value. But like, one is my plans, especially to copy my resume, but also like, this usually happens in another sheet that has like links for another to say, like, I did this, so like I showed these for or what was that about for my experience is what those things is. I have to that you're playing with the quality and kind of like the where you live and what quality has also been achieved at a certain salary.
Yeah.
How that's part of it. I don't take this and you were doing it because those sound very different. Oh, it does a horrible way. I feel bad. Like
That's very generous. I do hope that people in my position on average usually strike the salary
I won. So I
somebody up over
That is
really not gonna go.
Yeah.
Jenny.
Do you have like that fire?
Really love to have one after benefit package match retirement plan, lots of fees.
Unless like it's here, obviously, it's really
Or.
I get it. I really appreciate you said something. I really like it on an on-set version.
Well, so you're saying like I expect these to be benefits.
People.
Someone
So,
Oh, okay.
But just in case they are.
so, yeah, saying something based on my experience, based on my qualifications, and the expenses going to.
We talked about it.
Even if they go lower, it's still like this position.
Since I back masters, I really think
I think based on your education, this is proportionally skills
you're just
There's also some like expected, which is different from I've friends it's thing is not have a subject like a monthly rate, even though my company 4 years or 2 years, and but she wanted to like make
So
how does this sound? You don't feel like users are more so, but this is like you said, I'm sure that you're able to understand that it's an issue that I honestly think this could just not be like this. Ask for yeah, like the money. Anytime you're accepting like a full-time position, you're hiring. And if you don't, that's like 10 years from now.
Like, even like the 5 years, depending on the
Yeah.
company. With the smaller company, you have to like think about that.
I would love people to start on our program. It is, and that's why I would rather have to like, and usually like their salary makes higher grades.
Especially with them, because then it's like,
Smart.
and like the smaller companies have always been more because there's less competition and things like that. So it's hard to put in in order to
Is there actually a way to like ask to get
Time up, everybody. Did you enjoy the conference? Okay. Okay, then, I want you to share about your experience in the activity. So, what kind of skill and strategy you used or you heard others use? The skills and strategies we addressed in the lecture. Did you that?
So our group, I guess because I went first, I was able to sort of like really closely mimic the things that you guys modeled for us. So saying my current employer doesn't allow me to disclose that, but what's in your budget? And then as we went around, because we were all doing the same scenario, we actually our group got a little more creative about sort of saying like, oh well, that lower end would be fine, but can we consider, can you put it in my contract that I'll be reviewed for this salary increase within 6 months or something. So it was interesting to see kind of pushed.
You use the strategies recommended in your exam, like how to lead the conversation and to back up with the facts and to kind of take the control of the conversation. Anybody? We can have more people.
Well, one of the strategies we discussed, we weren't sure if it was actually more effective or less effective. But we thought, we had heard of people using, like, negotiating based on other offers they have. We weren't sure if that's like good or
Potentially fake offers. Because how are they gonna know?
Yeah, it's kind of strategy of negotiation. Like I have another offer higher than you, and if you don't take me like this, I think yeah. Although it's not mentioned, but it's one skill strategy. Any ideas from table 3?
Well, I have sort of a strange experience in the fact that I have to do this daily because I run my own business, so I'm always negotiating hourly pay. It's usually hourly pay though. But I sort of see it as educating because usually the people who are contacting me don't know how much interpreters make and don't really know what the going rate is, and so I try to take the opportunity to not only let them know this is what I will accept and this is what's standard in this area, but also look a little bit about what I do and what it is. And I try to be friendly but also authoritative so that then they understand if I still can't take the job because they're not offering me enough. I try to maintain a good relationship so that they will contact me or think favorably on me in the future.
I think you just mentioned the strategy about doing the research and back up with the facts. That's very useful. And I think
Yeah, we talked a little bit about how it also kind of pays, like this is doing research to know the company and to know whether to tailor your strategy based on that. Like the small company, they might not be able to offer as much money up front, but you might be able to negotiate something like a signing bonus. If it's a larger company, there might be more room for negotiation. It's just like kind of taking into account what kind of company and atmosphere you're negotiating with.
Yes. Except for doing the research for the position, you also need to do the research for the company. But the company here is not real, so might not be very useful in this scenario. And also, the second one is, do you find anything difficult, or you think you need to improve on the strategies we just introduced to you?
One question I have when you're negotiating is, I heard that you kind of want to aim high, so then when they suggest like a lower salary, it's still like a good salary, but how do you decide how much higher to go? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I know.
Like if they're like, okay, the starting salary is 50,000, well, I could be making 60,000. You're like 55 or something.
Yes, I think the point is you can back up with the facts. Like from my research, that the salary for this position is from how much to how much, and I want to be in the upper end. So you just give them your idea and your opinion.
Can I add to that? So more directly, say you're targeting 50,000. It is safe to, if you end up giving a range, it is safe to say, I'm really looking for 51 or 52 to 55. So it is okay to go 1,000 to more of your expected salary range. So they're always going to go.
I just want to say that we found it a little bit difficult to find language that was authoritative without being demanding. Sometimes we'd say something with weight, that sounded kind of movement. But you also didn't want to sound like you were being too much of a pushover.
Yeah. Also in the research, we read that when women are requesting higher salary, they are some more demanding than men. So it's also one problem. And I think we want you to use this strategy, like being more confident, to give the employer the signal that you are confident about what you did, and you have the ability to do a good job.
Okay, so we're glad that you enjoyed the scenario practice and get to practice some skills you learned from the salary negotiation. And we would like you to keep in mind that since not every one of you is going to do your salary negotiation in the US context, please remember to do your own research and figure out if these strategies we share today will could be applied to your cultural context in which you are doing your salary negotiations. And now we're going to wrap up. Since the video mentioned the importance of practicing with people that you trust, first we would like you to think 1, 2, 3 people with whom you can practice your confidence, communication, and negotiation skills. And since it's also important to keep educating and empowering each other, we would like you to think of 1, 2, 3 ideas that you have learned today and would like to share with people who are practicing with you. And you will have 2 minutes to write down these 2 questions. Are we good? Okay. Okay, time is up. Does anybody want to share what they have written down with us? Okay, so if you don't want to share, then just keep in mind what you have written down and try to apply it outside this workshop. And now, since we are proceeding toward the end of our workshop, we would like to review our objectives. So please think, during the past 90 minutes, did you recognize the current situation of women's wages? Did you identify causes of gender pay gap? Did you outline the ideas regarding communicating with confidence in the context of salary negotiation? And did you apply communication skills through a salary negotiation scenario? Okay, does anybody have any final thoughts or comments or questions regarding what we did during the past 90 minutes in this workshop?